Hi, and welcome everyone to Ethereal Encounters Unveiled. Today we are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in beautiful New Orleans. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. And of course, today we are live on a Friday, which is super exciting. As I mentioned in my other podcasts, we used to do a lot of pre recordings on a Friday, but we're doing a lot more lives. So please join us in the chat. We would love to hear from you. Our guest would love your questions and comments, I am sure. So don't be shy. Come on and pop in. Today we have a really timely topic. We're going to be talking about how to make your intuition a superpower, how to learn, trust, and listen to your inner voice. Now, I just want to reiterate, thank you again for joining us. We are in live on an Ethereal Encounters Unveiled, and we're broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, which is 105.3 on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. So let me start with this. What if your greatest source of wisdom that you've ever needed is already inside of you? Forget the endless scrolling, the spreadsheets, the agonizing pros and cons of searching all over the internet. We're talking about unlocking a system of guidance that is always right, always loving, and always for your highest good. This is about moving from confusion and anxiety to absolute clarity. So get ready to activate your inner genius, because today we're talking to intuitive healer and author Eboni Banks about her journey, as well as her wonderful new book that is coming out, and it's called Your Intuitive Nudge. And we're going to be exploring how to make intuition your superpower. So, with that said, let me introduce Eboni.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so
Thrilled.
much for having me.
It's a blessing. Thank you. So, we were talking a little bit earlier about how timely the topic of your book and this topic in general is.
Mm.
There's a lot of folks that are on a spiritual journey, more so now than ever. And I think a lot of them are discovering their divinity and their inner light. And I think a large part of that is also discovering your intuition. And of course, we're going to be stopping to say hello to some of the folks that drop in for a chat. And always, Heidi, you are a true blessing to me personally and our community. Yes, head on over to YouTube. We love hearing from Heidi. She's so special to us. And a lot of people don't know that we're live on Fridays, because we used to do a lot of pre-recordings, but as you heard me say, we're doing a lot more lives. So I'm hoping a lot more people pop in the chat. But I want you to take a minute or two and tell us about your journey. I
Mm.
love your backstory. I loved your book. It
Oh my
was, as I mentioned, it's really nice the way it's laid out, especially for folks that maybe have never really tapped in to their intuition before. It's kind of like a how-to book in a way.
God. Mhm.
So I'm going to step aside for a minute and let you take the stage and talk about yourself and your journey, and I will pop right back in.
Okay, sure. I'm so distracted by your hair because it is just gorgeous. So I'm just going to say
Thank
that.
you. Thank you. Thank you so
Um,
much.
yeah, it's gorgeous, the color, the cut. So, oh goodness, where should I start? I guess my journey. I've been an intuitive since I was a child. I've had this awareness since I was a small child that I knew things that people didn't tell me, and I didn't know how I knew, and I didn't know what to do with it, and I didn't know what it told me about myself. If I was good, bad, I should know. I just completely confused. And I was also raised in a Christian family who went to church every Sunday and Sunday school and the whole thing. So I was getting all these other messages about the unseen world and God and Jesus and all these things, and trying to understand that through the lens of my experience. Um, So I guess that's like my background, and then I experienced some trauma that I repressed for many, many years. And I credit my intuition with my ability to really start my healing journey to heal myself, because I was guided to doing all these things that I had never done or didn't even like because I had tried them previously. And those things ended up creating what I have since learned is called a natural conversation, which is the conversation that the mind is embodied are having all day long, And because of my trauma, my mind and body, the conversation was not harmonious. And once I started doing all of these things like yoga and meditation and crystal therapy and just more prayer in general, I'm still very much connected to what I like to call God, which I just think of as the creator, but I don't use that word in a religious context at all. I don't identify with being Christian. I don't know where to look. I'm confused. Should I look here or should I look at my thing?
You can just look right in the center. I know it
Okay.
is a little confusing. Right in the middle is perfect.
Okay. And so,
Michelle.
and to hi to all your guests. I hope they ask questions. I'm a total open book, you guys. So anything
Good.
you want to ask me, like
Wonderful.
really, I'm open to anything. And
Wonderful.
so where was I saying? So yes, so then my trauma, and then I repressed it. I was doing all these things that led me to spending a lot of time with myself and really getting back
Hmm.
to that spiritual nature that I had as a child. And I was on the phone with a friend one day, and I just like spoke my trauma to my friend on the phone, and that really kind of set me off on a whole other journey. But even before that happened, and this is in the book, I think this is in the book, the story about how I learned that I was clairtangent, that happened before I unrepressed my trauma. That was in 2012, and I unrepressed my trauma in 2016. So there was all this stuff going on in my subconscious that was just guiding me to really recognizing who I am, what my spiritual gifts are, and to own
Hmm.
that. But because of all the trauma that I was also dealing with, there was some challenges and some distance from me being able to do that.
Yeah. Trauma, everyone has trauma. Some obviously are more severe than others, but we all have trauma. And that's why, like, I've done a lot of interviews with folks on shadow work and how important it is to do it daily, to just to like, even if it means to sit by yourself and journal and kind of work out these things. So you mentioned something that I'd like to clarify, because maybe a lot of folks in the audience don't know what clairgentent is, or the
Clairtangent.
abilities that you got. Yeah, so let's kind of define what that is for people so that they know.
Sure, absolutely. So clairtangent is one of the intuitive clair senses in the same family as clairvoyant, which is, probably the most popular known clair sense of the seven clair senses. And clairtangent means clear touch. So the
Right.
word clair, Clair, means clear, and then the ending of the word connects to a particular sense. And by sense, I mean our five primary senses because they
Hmm.
directly correlate.
Yeah.
And there are additional intuitive clear senses that do not correlate with our five senses, like clairsentient, which is clear feeling, and claircognizant, which is clear knowing. But the other clear senses connect to touch, taste, hear, smell, and see.
Mm.
Yeah, which is why
So,
I'm of the belief that everyone is clear something.
yeah.
Because if you have the ability to touch, taste, hear, smell, or see, and many of us are doing all of them, all five of them, right? Then you also have the ability to experience the intuitive, clear version of those senses. It's really about you learning yourself and paying attention to yourself and how life and the world and your body is communicating with you all day long. It's happening all day long.
Yeah, yeah. So you mentioned when you were a young girl that you knew you had these abilities, but and I could totally relate to that. And like, I'm Catholic. I went to Catholic school, the whole thing, and all of that stuff clouds your ability. It makes it so dense to be able to be in touch with that inner light within yourself, because you're hearing all these voices, and unfortunately most of it's negative, or at least like, especially for us Catholics, like,
Mm.
I went to Catholic school and I was beaten almost daily, whipped
Oh
around,
my
smacked
God.
around. Yeah, it was just awful. So all that stuff, really gets in the way of you tapping in, especially as a child, like,
Yes.
good God, it's just awful. Tell us about that. Like, what did you go through?
I it wasn't a negative experience necessarily. It was just confusing because I was just wondering why I knew things that people didn't tell me, and
Mm,
wondering what it if it meant I was bad because I knew these things.
right.
I had this whole thing about being bad for a long time as a little girl, and then
Yeah.
I was just generally confused. Like, church is telling me about Jesus, and I'm like, who is Jesus? And they're talking about God, like I'm going to see God, like it's a person. And I was like, no, but it's not a person because I think they're talking about what I experienced, but it's not a person. And it was
Mm,
just utter confusion. And one thing that was very prominent for me, and I used to do as a habit as little as like 6, is I would sit alone in my room and I would imagine where I would be if I didn't have a body. Like I
mm.
had awareness of another realm of existence that wasn't physical. And I would just sit and I would literally close my eyes and try to be in that space. Like imagine what that would be like if I wasn't on earth. I knew I would exist in another form somewhere.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
It's wild when I think about it now that the little Ebony, was having those thoughts because,
Yeah.
yeah, it's so interesting that's so who I am now is who I've always been.
Yeah, yeah. Did you ever have any, like, supernatural encounters? Like, were you
Mm.
able to see entities or reach out to people in different dimensions? Like, what was that like for you? Or was it purely just your intuitive nature and your wonderful imagination taking you to places? Like,
It was really just me knowing things that were going to happen. Like I would know ahead of time that these two
mm,
people were going to have an argument, or I knew that when people were not being sincere or authentic. Like I
mhm,
just had a knowing of who was lying, who was telling the truth, like those kinds of things. I
yeah.
don't call having an experience with other entities other than like me tapping into this space that I now think I was tapping into the void.
Yeah,
Back
yeah.
then I didn't have, of course I didn't have that language, but now I think that's what I was tapping into, was the void. And so I was tapping into that space, but there were no other entities. It was just like a dimension, I guess, that I was accessing.
Yeah, yeah. Hi, Tiff. Thank you. We love having you here. Thank you. I love when people pop in the chat, and I'm excited that they're doing this on a Friday.
Me
It's really
too.
my day. Yeah, well, it's interesting because as I was reading your book, I identified
Mhm.
in so many ways because as an empath, and I've always been like I can remember being 4 and 5, and as a young child, I knew like I would tap into other people's emotions and feelings, and I
Mhm.
I knew like when a person didn't have good intentions and all that stuff. So does that like fit into that? Do you consider yourself like truly being an empath on your
Yeah.
journey?
I
Yeah.
think I think of empathy as definitely connected to intuition, because
Yes.
it's a people who are sensitive in that way, just have to learn how to manage it, because I know for me when these things were happening as a child, I would treat it like, okay, yeah, like I wanted it to go away because I was so confused by it. And so I would be like, okay, I'd rather be playing, I'd rather be doing what I'm doing because it would just show up at any moment. It didn't have to be when the people were around me. I could be playing and it would show up, this knowing. And so I would just be like, okay, yeah, go away. But I think in general, people who are empaths, I don't know if I was feeling so much back then. It was more of a knowing for me.
Yeah.
But I think empathy and people who have that level of empathy to be able to feel the emotions of others are definitely highly intuitive also. They
Yes.
just have to learn how to like to distinguish between the two and how to manage them because as an adult I have been very empathetic and I've learned how to manage it so it doesn't overwhelm me, because I don't want to
Yeah.
feel someone who's sad and then I become sad,
Yes.
because that's what used to happen, but that doesn't happen to me anymore because I've learned how to
Oh,
manage it.
good, good. I think that's a key point, especially when tapping into your intuition, because for me, like, I would let other people's emotions surround me and overcome me. And it took
Mm,
me many years to learn how to not let that affect me in a negative way. now I finally have learned how to do that, but I think all empaths struggle with that, and
Mm-hmm.
that does cloud your intuition. It does get in the way. Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. And the thing with intuition too is it's all about you. It really has nothing to do with another person, because the journey to really, um, maximizing your use of your intuition is all a journey inward that is constantly demonstrating to you who you are, what is true for you over and over and over again. And so it makes you address all of your isms, you
Mm.
know, all of your, like anything that takes you out of your truth and into illusion. It makes you address those things. So it really is all about you. Even though it involves, you'll naturally know things about other people, it has nothing to do with them. you know like if you know something about someone else, it's really just showing you that you have the ability to do that,
Yeah.
and bringing you back to yourself to learn how to do that more often or in ways that suit you in your life. But it really has nothing to do with the other person.
That's so true. What do you think trauma, like in your experience, having, experienced trauma, what do you
Hmm.
think it did to your abilities? What do you think it does to us folks that, have experienced something very similar to you, to that, where we've
Oh,
had serious traumas? What does it do? Like, what does it do to
oh.
us?
Trauma does. So it impacts every single area of your life, and often subconsciously. It impacts what you think of yourself, right? So even
Mm.
if, like for me, I didn't have outward thoughts that like I'm not worthy of certain things, love, more income, you know, um, I don't know, just general like happiness, because I was also happy while I was in my trauma at times. But there was all
Yeah.
this underlying stuff going on. Like I was living my life at a fraction of what I'm capable of living and doing and how I'm capable of showing up. So um, trauma impacts how you see yourself in practical ways, like relationships, job, income, those kinds of things, and also in spiritual ways, like
Yeah.
what you're capable of and how loving you are and who you really are
Mhm.
and how much light you really carry, and just getting to the truth of all of that. So for me, it was like I had so much excavating, you know,
Yeah.
to do, because it was just years of things that I'd been telling myself that weren't true, that led me to
Yeah.
live this really small life where I wasn't at all being who I actually am.
So when did that change for you? Like what? Like it 10 years ago? Like how long ago did it all change?
Yeah, the way I think about it, it was kind of rolling. It wasn't an overnight thing, because I learned I was clairtangent on accident in 2012. I was not looking for it. Thought I was going to have you know, be attuned to Reiki, and she thought I was being something. No, no, she was attuning me to Reiki. I thought I was going to have something else done, and that's how I learned that I was clairtangent. So, I think as early as 2012, with that happening, like all these well, that wasn't a little thing, but all these things have been guiding me to like, this is who you are. You need to see yourself like this is who you are. So I would say 2012, I could count that as the year that was most pivotal change in my life. My
Mm,
grandmother also transitioned that year. I was with her when she transitioned. It was a beautiful family experience for all of us.
mm.
And then that a few months later, that spring, she passed away that January. That spring, I accidentally learned I was clairtangent. So I had all these things happening in 2012, but it wasn't until 2016 that it came out of my mouth. So there were things going on for a number of years before I actually admitted that, because I repressed my trauma, before I actually admitted that this thing happened to me that I had to deal with.
Mm. Did you share that with your close friends and family? Like, what was that like?
When I was with like when I
When
came out
you
with,
Yeah, when you started your spiritual journey and, and
huh,
even your trauma, did you
yeah.
share that with anybody close to you? Like, what was that like?
Well, because I repressed it, I hid it from myself. Repression is, I like to be clear on what it is, because some people confuse it with suppression.
Mm,
So, and they're different. So, repression is an emotional coping mechanism, and
mm,
it's subconsciously when something has pained the person so badly that they push it so far away from their reality that it's as if it didn't exist. So,
right.
I didn't, I'm acting out in various ways, but I didn't know why. right? And so I repressed it for all those years. And suppression is conscious. And it's something like, an example I like to use is people who hold themselves back from crying, right? Like
Yeah.
that's a conscious way, that's suppression, but repression is subconscious. And so I didn't know I was doing it. So I was on the phone with a friend in 2016 and it just came out of my mouth. It
Wow.
just came out. Yeah, but like I said, all those years, there were all these things happening that I feel like were guiding me. Why it took me so long, who
Mhm.
knows? But I was being guided, I think, as early as 2012, I would say, is when it started.
Wow. So
Yeah.
that moment that you expressed that, that was truly an awakening for you, I would imagine, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And then that's really when I feel like my spiritual journey really started,
Mm.
because even though I learned I was a clairtangent 4 years prior, I was even treating that like, it's just a thing, because I'm already who I am. I didn't think it was like such a big deal. I already processed life knowing that we are all capable of these things. And so, I just treated it as an everyday thing. But then once this came out of my mouth in 2016, that's really when my deep healing started. And I was going to therapy and doing all these things to make sure I was taking good care of myself. And it led me to, kind of what my life is like today.
Wow. So how
Yeah.
did you discover you were clairtangent? Did you pick up an item? Did you touch a person? Like, what was that like for you?
Oh gosh, no. So I befriended a woman who's a Reiki master. And she used to have all these meetings at her house, just like spiritual gatherings with people from every walk of life imaginable. There'd be maybe
Mm.
25 to 30 of us piled up in her living room, you know? And she would lead these group meetings and we would talk about all kinds of things. And then I loved her and I trusted her. I actually ran into her about 2 weeks ago and it was so nice to see her. But I loved her and I trusted her. And I scheduled an appointment with her to have my chakras aligned or cleared or
Mhm.
something done with my chakras. But the day I showed up at her house and I had scheduled the appointment like 2 weeks prior, she was ready to attune me to Reiki. And I wasn't interested in Reiki. I knew what it was, but I didn't want to be a Reiki practitioner. I
Yeah.
just wasn't interested. And so we're in this park and she's praying over me and doing all these things. And a stranger walks over and he's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And he sees all the papers say Reiki because we're in a public park in New York City, right?
Mhm.
And he sees the papers say Reiki. And he's like, "Oh, would you like to practice on me?" And the woman says, "Oh, the universe always sends you exactly what you need when you need it."
Yeah.
So he lays
Good.
down in the grass and takes his shoes off. And I started doing what she just taught me to do. And I started with the soles of his feet and I make my way all the way up to the top of his head. But while I was maybe like on his knees or something, I asked the woman if I could talk because Reiki is usually a silent practice.
Right.
And so I said, I'm picking up information from him. Like, can I talk? Is that okay? And she's like, of course. So I start talking to him. And the way I think about my readings is I'm telling the person what their body is telling me. That's
Mhm.
the best way I can describe it,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And so I'm telling him what his body's telling me. And by the time I'm done, he says, "You're exactly right. How did you know all of that?"
Oh,
And I said, "I
wow.
have no idea. I've never done that until this very moment. So somehow when she was attuning me to Reiki, it also lined me up with this other thing that was already living in me. It was
Yes.
dormant in me. And she kind of, whatever she was doing when she was attuning me to Reiki level 1, kind of made that active in me. And so ever since
Oh,
then,
wonderful.
I've been sharing readings with people.
Nice. Do you get that with objects too? Like, if
Mhm.
you pick up an object, do you get like a story from that or emotions or feelings or what's that like?
Not usually. I'm extremely sensitive. And so for me, it's not helpful to walk around the world in that way. I would be overwhelmed. So I try
Yeah.
to keep it to just when I'm seeing clients, but there are times that it can happen. Like when I'm back in the day when I was really into crystals, I still have them in my home. You might see some behind me somewhere, but I'm not into them like I used to be, but they're still around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if I would, that's how I would decide what crystal to buy because based on what it was telling me. So
Yeah.
I was in this crystal shop that used to be in the city years ago, and I picked up a Lemurian seed crystal and it made me cry. And like
Oh,
the other crystals would like, I'd get energy in my elbows or something in me, in my body would respond. But other than that, I don't really like to walk around being that receptive because it's overwhelming, you know?
Yeah, it really is. It truly is. That's such a great point.
Yeah.
So, what prompted you to write this book? I mean, we talked a little bit about that. Um, it must be or still is a driving passion within you. So, like,
It
tell us
is.
about the road, um, the journey that you took to,
Yes.
where you just knew you had to write this book.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. And it really just warms my heart, almost makes me want to cry to hear you say how much you love it because
Oh, I do,
that just thank you so much for that because
of course.
I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
Oh, you're such a dear soul.
But my intention was really just for people um to just know who they are because for me,
Yes.
for me it was suppressed for so long and it impacted my life in so many ways. Like I was happy, I had a decent life, I had loving people, I was kind of generally happy life and I was doing things that
Mhm.
some people would consider as progressive, but it for me it was only like I said a fraction of who I am. And so my intention for writing the book was to support people and really allowing themselves to express and open up and to be who we all really are, and to not have to experience the decades, almost 2 decades I repressed my trauma, So, oh, thank you. Yeah, the book is called Your Intuitive Nudge, a step-by-step guide to connecting with your intuition. And it came about in such an interesting way because part of my healing journey, I started writing. And this was also the same year my dad transitioned. And I
Mm.
started writing a memoir just to write. I didn't really know it was a memoir. I was just writing. And then I met this woman who came to me for a reading. And she is the former editor of the UK Sunday Times. And I said to her after the reading was over and we're chatting, I said, I think I'm writing a book. And she goes, well, if you want to send me a couple pages, I'll take a look, da, da, da. Because she had published several books of her own in the spiritual world. And so I sent her maybe 60 pages. And she said, you're an amazing writer. You should keep going. So that
Mm.
encouraged me. And, I kept going. And then what year did I get an agent? I got a literary agent through a friend who is a longtime friend who is really more like soul spirit family. And I said to her, we hadn't spoken in a couple of years. And I said, oh, I think I'm writing, a book and I'm going to look for an agent. And I was telling her about it. And she goes, oh, I have the perfect person for you. So she introduced me to this agent. And at the time, I didn't know that with publishing, your agents have to represent the genre of the book. I was like such a novice. I had no idea because the agent represented self-help, but I wrote a memoir. But the agent liked me and she liked my story so much that she
Yeah.
really wanted to support me. So we were pitching the memoir, but we didn't get any publishing deals or anything. So she goes, why? How do you feel about writing a book about intuition?
That's amazing.
Right. And I never thought about it. And so I said, oh, I'd love to. That'd be fun. Let me like play with the idea and sit with it and think about like what I have to offer, what I could say. And so the book that is published now, that book is very similar to the very first like iteration of the book, like the first draft of like how I was going to organize it. Only a few
Yeah.
things have changed.
Now that's released, I think you said December that'll be released, correct? It'll
Yes.
be on Amazon and everywhere where fine books are sold, right?
Yes, right now there's an Amazon and a Barnes and Noble pre-order link, but they're going to send it out on December 8th. And I also think it's
Nice.
a great holiday gift for people because there's just so much beauty in the book. And
Yeah, there really is.
for 16.99 or whatever the price is, like that's a great holiday gift you could get for folks. And they're going to
Yeah.
get way more than 16.99 worth of value out of it.
It's funny, like, I get so many people that wanna talk about their books, and I'm so picky about, about people that I let into this world of mine that I created here, and your book just really moved me. I love the way it was laid out. I love like, the journey of it, the way you walk people through these exercises, what they can do to, like, get in touch with their chakras. It's just so beautifully written and, no affiliation whatsoever. Um, I'm just talking purely because I'm fortunate enough to get advanced copies, as you saw, PDFs and stuff. So I really, really enjoyed it. And we'll have the links in the description where you can pick them up. Now, that you can also get that on your website, which is Body Way Intuition, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Bodywayintuition.com. Yep. Yeah, I was so thoughtful about it. And I really just thought about what I do. You
Yeah.
know, everything in there is like what I do in my real life, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I just put that in the book. And I know that a lot of it I was receiving guidance on. I was channeling because it was really
Mm,
easy to write, and it didn't take that long for that to come out of me versus the memoir. That is
yeah.
still, I just finished the memoir probably this year, if I'm even done. I don't even know because it's being edited right now, but that
Ah,
started
nice.
in 2019. So
Wow. Yeah. So let's talk about some of the concepts in your book. Like you
yeah,
define intuition as like a simple feeling or a good guess, or I think most people define it as that. Like I think a lot of people have intuition and they don't pay much attention to it. They'll
yeah,
just think, oh well, that was lucky that I knew that, or that was weird. They'll kind of think, just brush it off.
yeah,
How do we pay? How do you discern between that and tapping into like your true intuition? How do you
yes.
know the difference?
I think the first thing for people is to really acknowledge that intuition is another form of intelligence. So it's not something that you should brush off. In those
Yeah.
moments when you recognize that you're having an intuitive experience, like
Mhm.
stop, acknowledge that to your brain, acknowledge that to your psyche, to your spirit, your soul, because so many of us pass it off like it's a passing, fleeting thing when I think it's more intelligent than the brain, because it can see what the
Yeah.
brain can't see, what our eyes can't see, and it knows what our brain doesn't know. For example, with my repression, I hadn't consciously admitted my trauma to myself, but it was always in there. It was
Oh
always in
yeah.
there, so um, and I really think that's where people should start. And then from there, it's really about pay because you have to change how you think about intuition first and foremost,
Mhm.
And then from there, it's really about being in your body and allowing yourself to be present with all of life's experiences, which is like that can overwhelm people, because oftentimes, even just in conversation with maybe your partner, someone you live with, your child, whomever, you're giving them half your attention because you're doing something else, So it's once you allow yourself to be present in all of your experiences, then it expands your awareness about what is happening
Yeah,
in that
yeah.
moment, in that moment. And, the way I've processed life, all of life is massive communication. We're being communicated to from the non-physical spiritual world all day long. It's
Mhm.
happening in obvious scientific ways, like the light that comes from the cosmos that hits the back of our retina and gives us
Yes.
physical vision, to all the other ways that we're being in tune with ancestors and other energies and entities. It's happening all day long, and we only acknowledge some of those ways when it's really important for us to expand our awareness. And you expand your awareness by being present in whatever is happening in that moment, because our body is constantly communicating to us too. It's like our I think of it as our primary form of communication, even
Mm.
which we know on some level because people recognize like body language, and
Oh yeah.
right. But there's so many other ways that our body is communicating to us if we just pay attention, the tension that we hold when we're around certain people, when the shoulders go up, when the breathing
Oh
changes, when we curl our toes in our shoes, when we constrict our hips. There are a million ways that we're telling ourselves how comfortable we are at any given moment. And when you can relax and allow your body to be open, it
yeah.
will communicate to you.
Oh gosh, that's so true. Um, for me, I always have when I get deeply intuitive things that take over my entity, it happens very quickly. And
Mm.
you can like I can tell the difference between an intuitive moment and just my monkey brain shouting stuff at
Yes.
me, you know? Um, I can't put it into any more words than that, but it's
Mm,
different. Maybe you could help us
mhm.
understand, why does it feel different? Because we
Yes.
do. We know when it's just anxiety,
Mhm.
and I know when it's not, but I can't
Mhm.
describe it. Maybe you could do better than that.
Yes, I know exactly what you mean, and that's such a good point. Thank you for raising that because, what I've learned about intuition is it'll only be loving. It'll only
Yeah.
be comforting to you. It'll only feel good and soothe you. Whereas our thoughts and our psyche and our stress, those things don't feel good. Those
No, they
things,
don't.
and our intuition is also, it's going to be a quieter voice before. It's not going to be as loud as a thought, or as loud as your stress, or as loud as whatever you're
Mhm.
worried about. It's going to be something that you have to pay more attention to until you start to pay more attention, and then it'll get louder. Because I think about intuition like a muscle. You have to use the muscle, just like we have to exert
Yes.
use the muscles in our bodies to sustain like those muscles. The same thing with your intuition. You have to use it. So,
Yeah.
it will get louder and you'll recognize it more. But that comfort you're referring to, or that confident knowing, is because it feels good. It's like
Oh,
it's not attached to anything that is stressful. You know,
gosh,
and
that's
that
so true. Yeah, and
yes,
I just think we're in this battle with the reptilian part of our brain. And I think that's the biggest challenge that a lot of us face. We're always battling, this primal part of us.
yes,
How do we distinguish between, or how do we foster and suppress that reptilian brain shouting in our heads about what to be anxious about to stay alive? It's based on survival.
yep,
So how do we kind of listen more to our
yes,
intuition? You said it feels good, but
hmm,
sometimes, like, we'll get intuitive moments like that are warnings
yes.
too, right? So how to explain that?
Yes, and I'm glad you said that because I wanted to speak to that too. Because the feel good doesn't always mean rainbows and butterflies, right?
Right.
The feel good can mean relief. It can feel good about something that is challenging. Does that make
Mm,
sense? Right?
yes.
Like it can feel good about something that is hard. It's like there will be an acceptance. There will be a surrender in a sense to something, doing the thing that you always knew you should do anyway. If it's having a
Yeah.
hard conversation, if it's making a hard choice, like there'll be a sense of comfort or relief around that when you're when your intuition is guiding you to do it, like at whatever time it's ready for you to do those kinds of things. So I definitely don't want to imply that intuition is always like warm and fuzzy, because it can
Mm,
absolutely guide you to doing hard things that you need to do to progress. And that hard thing could look like a million things depending on the person, you know?
mm.
Um, because it really is all about being in your truth. And so, to answer your second question, or your first, I don't know which one came first, but it's really about presence, like being presence is everything. I can't underscore that enough. And in this 21st century high tech AI environment that we live in, our attention is constantly going outside of us.
Oh,
But if you
yeah.
can learn to bring that attention inside of you, then you learn how you communicate with you. And you learn when you're communicating what's true for you and what's not true for you. And ultimately all your truths are going to be loving, because as challenging as my experience has been with my trauma and everything, I still think everything in life is loving. I don't wish my trauma didn't happen, or
Right.
I'm grateful for it. It made me who I am, and it guided me to like expressing my full self. And I actually think that's the purpose of trauma, you know?
Yes. Absolutely.
So I'm grateful for it. So I think, or I know that life is loving, even with all the things that are so painful and hurtful. Those things are ultimately not true, right? And to line up with, but they line us up with what is true. Does that make sense?
Oh gosh, it makes perfect sense. Even, and it's kind of like part of our, the way I see it, like part of our soul contract.
Mhm.
All of our pain, all of our suffering, it's all here for a reason, to be part of our spiritual journey.
Yeah.
I just wish at times um, we had more of an ability to be in the now moment easier, because you're right, we're so distracted by everything. And now in the age of computing and AI, especially,
Yep.
it's so easy to forget that divinity within ourselves.
Absolutely. And one thing I can add to that too is, people think that there's this magical answer to your question, but really it's simple. you know, it's just about paying attention to yourself. And really, one way to bring that presence, that strong presence into your experience is to really pay attention to how you're engaging in your five primary senses of touch, taste, hear, smell, and see, because
Mhm.
that puts us in our body in such a powerful way, because all of those, the expression of those senses connect to various types of energies that are divine. Like smell and taste connect to chemical energy. Touch connects to
Yes.
mechanical energy, right? Our vision comes from the light that comes from the cosmos. So if you pay attention to how you're expressing your five senses when you're eating, drinking, whatever you're doing, just be fully present in those moments and forget all the things happening around you. It really shifts how you experience life. And it's interesting because it's like you're going in to pay attention, but it expands you. you know? It expands you. Even though you're focusing more, it actually is the way to greater expansion through that more focus.
What are non-physical nudges? Can you
Oh,
talk about
goodness.
that?
Yes. So those are things that happen when outside of you, right? So like it can be um, a music that you hear, a song. It can be something that you see. It can be anything that is happening outside of you, that is kind of bringing your awareness to something that is familiar or something, a reminder. And we have those experiences all the time. You'll see a number that's your old address, or
Yes.
you'll hear a song that takes you back to a certain memory, from 25 years ago, all of those kinds of things. So it's really anything that connects to, you know, um, non-physical life. So it can also show up in your dreams. And just like our thoughts, our dreams can also be a mix of stress and
Yeah.
intuition. So we have to practice discernment and recognizing which is which. But it can happen in any realm of life that is, not tangible, that we can't touch.
I like that. And you're right, it does show up in our dreams. And like, what's that like for you? Do you astral travel at night? Like, how does that work for you? Because that's trippy. Like, I've had that happen a few times, and you meet it with such disbelief,
Yes.
and there's a part of you that goes, no, that was real, like that was legit. And the other part of you is like, no, it was just a dream. Like, you're always battling, like, inside your head, like, what's going
Yes.
on?
Well, that's why paying attention to yourself and learning how you communicate to you about what's true and what's not true is so important, because that looks
Yeah.
different for all of us. But my sleep life can be quite wild. And I've had two different spiritual leaders tell me that I don't sleep very much
Mm,
because my sleep life is so active. I have what I think of as experiences when I'm asleep, I that can show up as quote unquote dreams. I've had really profound things show up. Like I was on a school bus in an experience while I was asleep. I was on a school bus, like a yellow school bus, and it was full of all these ancestors, right?
oh,
And
wow.
yes, exactly, right. The school bus, the ancestors, like it was in a
Yeah.
powerful form of like transformation for me, and I experienced it in my sleep as being on a yellow school bus with all the like old ancestors. All these, it was packed with them. And then when I got off the bus, um, there was someone who I knew on the sidewalk, right? And I was kind of telling this person off, right? So it like those are and that gave me so much guidance about what was happening with me and that person in my life at that time. So my dreams can show up like that. And I can dream in color and black and white. I will make up if I there will be whole scenarios in my dreams where there's like a television on. I will make up a jingle, like a commercial jingle. I will make
Oh,
it up
that's
and it'll be
funny.
playing on the television in my dream. You know?
That's fu
My dreams are wild, but I definitely also have dreams where it's just me stressed out and I'm
Yeah,
expressing my stress while I'm asleep, but I know how
yeah.
to tell the difference. So,
Yeah, dreams are so, when I connect my dreams very much so to my intuitive ability. Like for me, they're very much connected. And
yeah.
when I found out that not everyone dreams in color, I was like shocked. Anyone in the chat, do you guys dream in color as well? Or is it mostly just like black and white? Because I just thought everybody dreamt in color, but I found out that that's not true.
No, most people
It's so
don't dream in
interesting.
color. And
Oh, is that right?
I think about dreams and probably what you experience. I think about dreams as a form of clairvoyance because
Yes.
clairvoyance means clear vision. And, we can get visions when our eyes are open or closed. And when we're asleep, and a vision is essentially anything that's showing up in your mind's eye. So we're having visions all day long. Anytime you picture yourself on vacation or at your new home or doing anything, like that's a vision because you're not seeing it out of your physical eye, you're seeing it in
Yeah,
your
yeah,
mind's eye.
yeah.
And I think of dreams as a form of clairvoyance because our eyes are closed and we're asleep, but we're still having vision,
Absolutely.
you know?
Absolutely. Do you think a lot of our intuition comes from our spirit guides, our loved ones that
Mm.
are looking over us, or do you think they just come from our own divinity?
I think they come from our own divinity. I really think it's just a natural expression of who human beings are. And for whatever reason, we've just never chosen to really own it, because we prioritize our brain over our spirit
Mm,
when we're spiritual beings having a human experience. So we should
yes.
prioritize our spirit over our brain, you know, but we do it the other way around.
Yeah. What about the pineal gland or pineal gland, whatever, tomato, tomato? I hear it pronounced all different ways. It's so sad because, oh, we're going to get to Heidi's comment in a second, but
Oh,
um, I think it's so sad that we've been now kind of really informed that fluoride is
mm.
is a malicious way for like the globalists. I know it sounds conspiratorial, but I believe it to be true. Um, that they infested our waters with fluoride to calcify our pineal gland because they know that that's our superpower. I mean, what do you think about that? Do you think that that
I
holds
stopped
any
using
water? No pun
I stopped
intended.
using fluoride toothpaste years ago.
Yeah.
so so I do resonate with some of that. I haven't done my own homework to really know what is out there, but I
Yes.
do know that we live in a capitalistic society that honors
Oh,
control,
yes.
and
Yeah.
the more control that can be exerted over the masses is, better for
Mm.
the 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 powers that be. And so I think that those powers that be will exert their control in whatever way they see fit.
Oh God,
So
I agree with you, Ebony. Like once I learned about the Hegelian, if I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, Hegelian dialectic, which is they create a problem, they wait for a reaction, and then they give us the solution. So like that makes so much sense to me. And I'm not like a conspiracy theory person that,
maybe
lives, breathes that stuff, but a lot of it makes sense to me when you're looking at like the suppression of our spiritual abilities and things like that. Like, I think they know that we're so much more capable of, like, even in the Bible, it says, God is inside of you. You have more power than you realize, more
yeah,
abilities. I mean, so, that part of it really makes me wonder, like,
of
about,
course.
yeah, yeah,
Of
it just,
course. I mean, if we lived in a different kind of society, then our society would be organized differently. you know like
absolutely,
during the
absolutely.
Plato, and people were studying these things, and that was a normal part
Oh,
of that
yeah.
society. Like we don't study these things at all
No, it's terrible.
in
Yeah,
most modern societies,
sad.
and that's purposeful. you know
It is. I totally believe it is. Heidi says, I remember a few years ago suddenly seeing colors through meditation and sleep, the dreams that are in color and super vivid, I believe, are definitely in the astral. Oh, that could be.
Yeah. And dreams are so personal too, you know? It's hard to
Yeah,
say like what it is for every person because we all have like the color she's referencing, whatever color she sees, those colors mean something to her that would mean something different to you or I, right? Like
absolutely. Yeah.
so it's you know, intuition is a very much a personalized experience. It really, which is why it's so important that people are in their truth about what feels good, what doesn't feel good, what they like, what they don't like. And it doesn't, without judgment, right? Because if you don't like something, own it. You know, don't pretend,
Absolutely.
don't
Yeah.
make yourself like it because it's polite. That's not going to progress you. You have to actually own your truth wherever that truth lands you
Mm.
and go from there, you know, because in the way your intuition will communicate with you, it's such a personalized journey that if you're not in your truth, it won't be able to guide you because you're not telling yourself the truth, you know?
That's such an important point. Could you share one of your favorite journal prompts or simple exercises from the book that would help us to start mapping better ways to listen to our inner voice?
Oh, goodness. Which one? There's so many of them.
What's your
Um,
favorite?
I don't think I have a favorite. I've never thought
No?
about like this one is my favorite. No, no. I like the one I think that's later in the book about your lived experience and how you can use your lived experience to create the experience that you want. Because
Mm.
that's one that really helps people get into their, you know, what's true for them. Um, what other ones are in there? I haven't, it's like escaping me right now. I also like a lot of the exercises around, like the energy exercises, like putting
Yeah.
like if you have to go somewhere, like sending your energy to that space before you get there, you know?
Well, I never thought about that until I read like anytime, and I hate to use this as an example, but like if I go in Walmart, I can't stand shopping in there. I just for the love of God, and and I like to go in the store because they have good deals on things, right? But before I go in, I have this little energy grounding thing that I do. And I like put a protective bubble around myself because I've had unfortunate experiences in there of people, just throwing their negative energy at you. And I kind of want to make myself invisible before I go in the store. So, but now I thought about like I can do that way before I get in, like send my energy there to prep myself like way in advance, right?
Yeah, yeah, and when you get there, you'll have a more pleasant experience, you know. And the reason I like the energy exercises so much is because it's important that we demonstrate to ourselves our own capacity, you know. And so I was thinking about that with the exercises. I want to prove to you who you are. And so these are things that you will see and you experience in your own life, you know. And I also like the exercises where like you and the other person, like putting your hands near each other and feeling energy, because it's really important that people acknowledge that I mean, your audience, it sounds like they probably already acknowledge this, but you know, people acknowledge that the non-physical world, how real and tangible it is. And just because we can't see it doesn't mean
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, exactly. I have to laugh because you're right. It is too peoply out there, Heidi. Oh my goodness. And it's so weird. I
People,
love how you talk about first of all, to your point, um, of finding your authentic self because there's so much divisiveness out there. So, like, we talked a little bit about how people are on this spiritual journey now more than ever. Like, people
yeah.
are really tapping in to that. But conversely, and I think a lot of it has to do with political divide and nonsense like that. And I truly pray for people to wake up from that because
Yeah.
we're not our politics. We're not the things we own. We're so much more than that. And that's why I love having these conversations because even if one or two people have a moment of clarity from it, it just brings me so much joy to know that.
Yes, yes. And when you recognize who you are, it helps you navigate all these other things so much more easily,
Yeah.
because you're in your truth. So
Yeah.
your energy, your power, your authenticity, all of those things, you're more aligned with all of those things for yourself. And so you attract different experiences into your
Yeah.
life, you know?
What do you think the biggest obstacle or fear that people have when it comes to trusting their intuition? Because I think that gets in the way. I really do.
Yes, I think trust is the biggest issue people have. I think, I know for me, it was just, being fearful of, like, of just who I really am and how powerful I really am. Because then it's like, now I have to live in this. Now I have to actually be this. And I was afraid of what that would look like.
Yeah.
I was more comfortable being in my smaller self than I was
Yeah.
being in my more fuller self, just for so many reasons, how people are going to perceive me, all kinds of things, and I'm sure different people have different reasons, but I think generally most of us are afraid of just really how powerful we really are. And then what that
Gosh,
looks
that's so
like, what that looks like when we actually have to embody that in our day-to-day life. It will change
that's
things. It will change things. So
yeah. And not on an ego level either.
no.
Not on it. You like your ego is so removed from this process, I think. And I
Yes.
think that people that really have tapped into their spirituality have learned that their ego is just, there's no place really for it. How did
No.
you come to separate your ego from your spirituality? What was that like for you?
Oh goodness. I mean, so much of that was connected to my healing journey because what I learned about ego was that my ego's only purpose was really to keep me from pain, you know?
Mm,
And so it was doing all these things, just to keep me from pain. Because we typically think about ego as being, arrogant and I'm better than you kind of attitude and whatever
right,
way that
right,
shows up. And even people who behave like that, it's really their ego keeping them from pain because that's not truly how they feel. Because when you own that, you don't have to put yourself in positions for people to treat you as such,
right.
So for me, I learned that my ego's job was really trying to keep me from pain. And I learned to have empathy for my ego. And I was grateful for its usefulness, but I
Yeah.
had to like really let it go and ask it to leave my life because I no longer needed it to protect me. I actually know how to protect me.
Oh, I
You know?
love that.
So
That
I
is
mean,
such a good point.
yeah, I think with everyone, just have empathy for your ego and other people's, however it's showing up for them, because it's really not what it appears to be. It is just people trying to stay safe, and the ego says, "Oh, this is the only way you can stay safe." Whatever way
Yeah.
that person is exhibiting it, the ego doesn't tell us the truth, but it's lovingly trying to protect us, because again, like I said, I'm of the belief that everything is love, and it's on like a trajectory of love.
You're the first person I've ever heard talk about their ego with love and kindness. Usually it's disdain and everybody treats it like it's just this awful thing. Oh, you're such an egotist. Even comments like that, right? They're all so negative, but you have a wonderful approach, and I am going to do that from
Aw.
now on. That is brilliant. I love that. I
Oh,
love
thank you.
that.
I mean, it's my I credit my healing journey. I really
Yeah.
had to understand what was happening with my
Make
life all
friends with
those
your
years.
ego, people.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I love
Talk
that, I
to
love that.
it.
And it's funny too because, like, I remember learning about the imposter syndrome, and it
Mm,
disturbed me because I'm going, and it's a psychological theory, principle, premise, whatever, and I'm sure it's rooted in a lot of truth,
mm,
but it's looked at as is if we're not being genuine all of the time. But I think that with each
mm,
person we meet and each person we deal with, we're different people, and I think that's okay, right?
mhm.
like your rooted self is the same, but
Mhm.
maybe how you interact with them is a little different.
Mhm.
Maybe you need to be a little more gingerly with them,
Mhm.
or I don't know, like I just feel that there's no such thing as the imposter syndrome because I think we're just being true in the moment. What do
Hmm.
you think about that?
I could kind of see that, but what I've learned is that for me, it's more beneficial when I'm really firm in who I am in all across the board, you know? So, and that's can be challenging because everyone's not able to meet me there, but I always just, I'm just who I am. Does that make sense?
Exactly. Exactly. You are just who you are. But it's interesting if you look at your interactions with other people. Like, I
Mm,
don't know, maybe because I lived my life and still am as an empath. And I just am very careful. And it's probably not a good thing to be as careful as I am. I'm still on my
mm,
learning journey about that. But when I tap into other people, which happens instantly,
mhm.
I change how I treat that
Ah,
person. You know what I'm saying?
yes, I do know
Because
what you're saying.
sometimes they're such a sensitive soul and
Yeah.
you know what I'm trying to
I
say. Like
do.
you
I know exactly. Now I get it. Now,
yeah,
thank you for giving me that extra understanding because now I understand more fully what you're saying. And I think my answer is still the same though, because, you know, when we're coming across other people, they can either meet us, like be aligned, or be
right.
less aligned or more aligned, if that makes
That's so
sense,
true.
right? So I think that it's always most beneficial for self to stay where you are. I wouldn't suggest that you change for other people, but I understand why you do because you're an empath, right? And so it's kind of
Yeah,
natural. And that's really a big fight that all empaths have to
it
do.
is.
Like you have to stand firm. I call that energetic sovereignty, right?
I like that.
Yeah, you have to be sovereign in your own energy and not allow yourself to be seeped in to someone else's. You have to stand firm where you are, you know. And that
Yeah, and
that
that
presence is also how you're going to access more of your intuition because if you're constantly shifting to connect with other people, because at the end of the day, that's what all empaths want is connection, right? So if
yes,
you're
big
doing that
time.
all the time because you want to connect, 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 you will have a hard time finding what is true for you and how you feel in your body when you're in your own harmony with yourself, you know?
That's so true, Ebony. And I think that's what gets in the way a lot of you know, c tapping into your true intuition too.
Absolutely.
It really does, it clouds it because it makes it so dense, and
Yes.
it's so hard to get through that density. I'm just describing it like the best way. Like, I
Yeah.
could walk in a restaurant full of people, and sometimes I just get so overwhelmed, and not because I don't love people, I absolutely
Mhm.
adore them, but
Mhm.
you just feel this energy shooting at you and I think that's why I don't like walking in Walmart too, because it's just too much.
It's too much. Yes.
It's too much.
Yes. And,
Yeah.
this brings me to something that you asked earlier on about what was like my early life like. And I remember when I shifted from being comfortable being in crowds to being completely uncomfortable being around in big crowds, because as a
Oh,
kid, my dad would take us to all these like cultural festivals and stuff, food festivals on the National Mall, like all these things where there's thousands of people. But as an adult, that's the last thing I wanted to do, because I
wow.
had become so sensitive. So, and the encouragement I want to share for you and other empaths is because you're so in tune. Imagine how well you can attune to your own self once you shift your focus. I mean,
Yeah.
the amount of intuition empaths can access is they're naturally highly intuitive. It's just a matter of turning the focus from other people to yourself and using your empathetic ability with other people, being more selective about how you do that as opposed to it happening so willy-nilly.
Gosh, that's so true. And I think a lot of people that are empaths, which there are many,
Yeah.
will appreciate that because it's so true. Like, I will be more intuitive about someone else before myself. And
Yes.
and that Yeah, that's spot on. That's spot on. What did Heidi say here? I remember feeling energy ever since I can remember. Today, I took a class at Boulder Psychic. Oh,
Oh,
Heidi. And I learned some new energy. Good for you.
nice. I
I
want to know
love
what you
it.
learned, Heidi.
Yeah, geez. I love energy work. I really
Too.
do. She says, Heidi, I'm gonna have to check with you on that later. I'm so interested. Thank you, Ebony. Love that. And I struggle with self-love. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
It's
glad,
just so,
Heidi.
why is it so difficult for us to
The
love
self-love
ourselves?
thing, I know it's such a hurdle. I mean, love is so complex in general, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. I think just like our childhood rearing, and
Yeah.
all of us as human beings are so sensitive to all the negative experiences we've had throughout our life, and
Yeah.
we internalize those things, and we don't even realize we internalize something that somebody said to us when we were in the eighth grade that we're still carrying, at
Isn't
35,
that awful?
you know?
Yeah.
So we just don't pay enough attention to do our work. And I like that Heidi mentioned that she struggles with self love, because the journey towards accessing more of your intuition is really about loving yourself. And it's
Yeah.
about loving yourself through how you're being in your life, mostly through, our relationships with other people, but it is all about the self at the end of the day.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
And it's almost sad how not until we age and get older and wiser
That we
that
figure
we
this out.
that we just don't give Fs anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like just we just stop giving them.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yes.
interesting.
But I mean, I think, for the listeners, it's just really important for people to just know that this is not something that is outside of them or something that they can't do.
Yeah.
Did she say she's a Pisces? What was that I saw? Mother to all. Oh, she's a Cancer Pisces.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a Pisces too, and that's another big one. Just
Yes.
being existing as a Pisces on this planet, I feel
Oh,
bad for us. Yeah.
Pisces. I think you guys are natural psychics. I
Yeah.
love Pisces people. I'm a Virgo
Thank you.
sun, so it's my opposite sign.
Oh, nice.
But I
I have a
love
dear friend
Pisces.
who's a Virgo.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
I forgot what I was saying. Just something about people knowing that it's all about, when it comes to self love, because that's a big part of it, knowing that it's all inside of you. Like you don't have to, these experiences that happen outside of us with people in our households, people at work, people at Walmart, right?
Yes.
They are just,
Yeah.
they're just experiences to bring us back to ourselves, you know?
Yeah. So, as an intuitive healer,
Yeah.
how does a history of personal trauma impact your ability to trust, like your own intuitive nudge? Like, what do you do to protect yourself every day? I mean, is it meditation? I know you do Reiki. Like, do you do that on yourself? Like, what's that journey like for you? How do you protect Ebony every day?
I mean, well, generally speaking, I walk through the world knowing I'm already protected, so I don't feel a sense of unease around me needing to, it's just, I experience life as being loving. I choose to see life that way. And
Mhm.
sometimes I have to work on seeing life that way.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's harder than other times, but for the most part, that's how I walk through life. I know that all these things that we experience that are not loving are man made. They're things that we've created. They're things that are not true, and unfortunately, those things make up so much of our reality that we think it's true, or we've made it true, or we have bowed down to that as being truth when it's really not. It's not the
Yeah.
truth at all. So
Yeah.
I have that awareness. That's number one. And I guess, I definitely meditate multiple nights a week. Before I go to bed, meditation is a good way for me to kind of release
Hmm.
whatever I picked up in the day that has maybe stressed me out or made me feel uneasy in some way. I
Yeah.
also do give myself Reiki at night. Some nights I just go to bed, but a lot of the time I'm doing Reiki or I'm meditating before I go to bed.
Nice.
Um, but for me too, my practice is also with being present. So it's really how I'm showing up in in every moment in life and just trying to be in my truth about how I feel and what is happening, you know,
Yeah.
and speaking up as appropriate, you know.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like, it's so interesting. I've come to see really that life is a balance of darkness and light, and that whether we like it or not, there is darkness on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
We can call it evil, whatever word you choose.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that being able to exist in both planes at the same time and in understanding that pe there are people that are not so good and there are forces that are not so good. And I
Mm.
think that your approach of seeing everything through the eyes of love, loving your ego, just approaching the world with love as your top priority is the perfect way to protect yourself and battle against these entities because they do exist, right, Ebony? I mean, it's just a part of
Yeah.
life. We've always had a battle between darkness and light, right?
Yeah, and you know, I've learned too that so for me, darkness just means the unknown, you know, and people who are perpetuating quote unquote dark things, I think are people who just live in illusion, you
Oh,
know.
really?
Yeah, I stopped believing in good and bad when I was in high school. You
No
know?
kidding.
Yeah, I don't believe in good and bad. I just think there's like illusion and truth. And I think darkness is the unknown. And because it's unknown, it's a place where both can live. You can have truth that is loving and dark. You can also have illusion that is unloving and dark, right? Dark is a very creative space where anything can be created, you know? So, you know, we just have to be more conscious about what we choose to create and to stay out of the illusion. But most people live their entire life in illusion, you know?
Yeah. And unfortunately, sometimes it could be a very evil path, an evil illusion that they've
Yep,
chosen. I mean, and
absolutely.
I've seen, and spoken to people that used to be, like, satanic, really deeply, darkly
I'm
satanic,
sure.
and have found their way out of that.
Yeah.
So, that's the beauty of that is that, you can always find your way out of the dark into the light.
Yes. Yes. And dark is such a powerful place. I always think I like to take my cues from nature and science as much as I can, even though spirituality is, you know, its own thing. But, you know, I think
Yeah.
about like dark matter and, you know, everything gets created in the dark. It's just our job to be conscious of what we're creating. And we're
Yeah,
not because
that's
so
so
many of
true.
us think dark is only quote unquote bad, evil, and they don't recognize it's a powerful place of creation and we can create love there too if we choose to. It's
Oh,
literally
yeah.
the unknown, you know? So
Yeah. I
I even
agree.
think
I
about
mean,
anything.
yeah, I agree with that energy flows where attention goes. That's so true.
Yeah.
So very true. So what do you think, is a practical real-time method for checking in, like, during the day? Like, I'll wake up with the best intentions, and I'll set my gratitude for the day, which I do every day, wake up, I always start my day with gratitude, even if I'm not, like, in the best of mental state. Um, I'll always start and end my day with everything that I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
What do you think that we could do aside from that, from gratitude, to
Yeah.
keep us grounded so that we're more tapped in to our intuitive nature? Because sometimes I'll set an intention for that, and it could be a silly thing, like I'll walk in a store and I'll go, "Okay, Carol Ann, just get focused. You're gonna pick a winning lottery scratch off today, and no matter how hard I try." But then it'll happen when I least expect it. Like,
Mhm.
all of a sudden, I'll hear a voice that'll say, "Pick number 6." And I know the difference, like I said before, between that voice
Mhm.
and me, like, begging the universe, more or
Mhm.
less. So, what do you think people could do to be more genuine about tapping into their intuition?
I think people have to also be really genuine about what's challenging them.
Mm,
You know, because too often in the spiritual community, we think everything is supposed to be, rainbow and butterflies. And all
Yeah.
of life is beautiful. Even the challenging stuff, even the hard stuff. It's that stuff is even more powerful than the stuff that comes more easy and is more feel good. And the only reason that other stuff shows up is so that you can overcome it. Otherwise, it wouldn't show up for you, right? And so
Mm,
it's really about having an awareness that all of life is loving. And even when you're having a hard time, you can't pay this bill, you didn't get this job,
right.
you're not in a good relationship with this person, seeing all those things as like lessons and asking yourself like what, taking a pause, taking a step back, trying to see it from like a wider viewpoint than being in it when you're so in it that you can only see it from this teeny tiny
Oh,
view.
yeah.
Trying to like span out of that and allow yourself to to ask yourself like what is life trying to teach me, what am I
Mm,
trying to teach myself, like what is happening in this moment, what can I learn from this. that
I like
that
that.
right there, that is everything. That is everything
Yeah.
because the more we can get in that level of authenticity about our with ourselves, I mean, the more you're inviting your intuition.
That's so true. That's
And
so
that's
true.
hard to
No,
do. It's hard. It
it is
is way
very,
easier said than done.
yeah. I like to like zoom out. Like I'll if something negative happens or something that I didn't plan for, I like to just sit back and like kind of zoom out and look at it from more an objective perspective and say, well, you know, this happened for a reason and it'll lead me to a path as to where I'll uncover why.
Yeah.
Like maybe I won't know right away. Is that intuition when you do things like that? Or is that just tapping into your spiritual self?
That's a good question. And I mean, the two are both so closely connected,
Yeah.
because your intuition is your spiritual self. So I would say, it's a combination of both, because if you feel the comfort and the relief and asking yourself those questions as opposed to handling that same situation with anger or, telling someone
Right.
off or whatever other reactions or responses you could have had, then that is definitely, your intuition guiding you to how to respond to that situation. Does
Wow,
that
I
make
never
sense?
thought. Oh my gosh, not only does it make sense, but it like I had a moment of clarity from that. I
Yes.
really did because I never thought of those moments as my intuitive self, but you're so spot on. They really are.
Yeah.
They really are. You wow, that was like a wow moment for me.
I mean,
Thank
intuition
you.
can, of course, you're so welcome. Intuition can be anything from giving someone a reading, right,
Yeah,
to the kinds of experiences that you're talking about.
yeah.
It's not specific to any kind of experience. It's
Mm,
anytime you are having a knowing about something. If it's like, oh, I know I should make chicken for dinner tonight, like what
yeah,
you know what I mean, like,
yeah.
or I know about this person and I'm giving them a read. Like it can be anything,
You
anything.
know what's so interesting too? I trust my dog's intuition
I
more than
love
my it's just my dog is so intuitive. And my talk about trauma, my poor dog, I have a poodle that I rescued. He was in such a bad state of trauma, inches away from death. And Oliver, come here. I want to show you him.
Yes.
He's like my son to me. Baby, come here.
Oh my goodness.
But it's funny because where'd that little bugger go? He's usually right here with me. He's probably sleeping on the bed, but um when we're walking, he'll see someone and immediately in seconds know
Hmm.
if he trusts that person or not. And you'll see a lot of dogs do that. Like some
Hmm.
dogs will immediately run over to someone and they'll be kissing and hugging them. And then some dogs see someone and they're like growling at them. Don't you think that's intuition,
Yes, yes. Animals
right?
are highly intelligent. So yeah, absolutely. And the
They
same way
really
that
are.
they kind of respond like babies do to certain
Yes.
humans.
Yeah, that's so true. And I also read and saw some videos about how plants are so intuitive, like they'll
Mhm.
know that when you're out and you come home that you're there source of water, and they will start to perk up. Like I saw video of that, how a plant will actually, when an owner comes home, a plant will actually start perking up, knowing that, yeah, it's really trippy stuff.
I've seen some
Yeah,
stuff with plants too. Yeah, and how plants also know when you like are about to cut it. You know, like if
yeah,
like they can, yeah, plants are highly intelligent in a really
yeah,
like
they really are. They really
bizarre,
are.
interesting way.
Yeah. Well, how do you, I'm sure you've seen or read the book The Secret, right? So a
Yes.
lot of
Seen
people
how.
struggle with
Mhm.
manifesting because they think that all they need to do is like wish it so, like Captain Kirk would say, make it so, right? No, it doesn't work that way.
Mm-mm.
Um, Explain to us the connection between true manifestation and intuition. How does that
Oh,
work, Ebony?
that's such a good question. And it's funny because as a trauma survivor, for me, the law of attraction like wasn't something applicable to my life because had told myself all these negative things about myself that were not true. Like I had
Oh,
to clean that up first, and so I'm just mindful of that law of attraction for people who have like work to do because, and which is really all of us. I
yeah.
don't like the idea that like you just think of this thing and it kind of comes.
Yeah, no.
To me, because I had so much inner work to do to align with my true self, who knows what I could have been attracting in that, in
That's
that space.
right.
So for me, I think of the law of attraction a little differently just because as a trauma survivor, things are
Yeah,
different, you know?
yeah.
Um, but in terms of intuition and manifesting, I mean, that's such a powerful question because intuition is subconscious. It lives in your subconscious mind. So you have
Mhm.
to, or we have to trust the things that we're being guided to, right? Because
Mm.
even if we don't directly, it can guide us directly and indirectly, depending on where we are in our relationship with ourselves. Does that make sense? So,
Yes, it
like, for
does.
someone who is in less of their truth, your intuition will guide you to be more in your truth before you can get the thing that you're wanting to manifest because you can't get there while you're not in your truth. Versus someone who is in their truth, they can get there more directly. Does
Oh,
that make sense?
it does. So, y do you think that we only manifest things that are meant for us in our truth? So, like, say if
Mm,
you wanna manifest something, it could be anything, and you
mhm,
don't get it. Do you think that maybe that was intentional because that wasn't really meant for you? Like,
mm.
how
I
does that
think
work? Like, some people can manifest so easily,
yes,
and other people struggles with it. Like,
yes,
do you
yes.
think it's just part of your journey?
I absolutely think it's part of our journey. And I
Yeah,
think in truth is even a tricky word because what's true for you and what's true for me can be two different things and they can both be true.
yes,
Right.
right.
So again, it's like a very individual experience, but I generally think that, when it comes to having something that you want, you have to line up with why you want it, you know, if it's harmonious, loving, all those things.
Mm,
And then there may be work that you have to do. So I think your ultimate for me, everything comes down to being in your truth. Maybe because I wasn't in my truth for 18 years is
yeah,
how long I repressed my trauma, that this comes up for me. Because even during those 18 years, I was creating things that I wanted. I started a nonprofit organization. I won an award for it. I was like doing
oh,
all these things that made me
wow.
happy. Um,
Yeah,
but I wasn't, but it wasn't at the level that I'm capable of. I wasn't living my life
mm,
at the level I'm capable of. And when it comes to like what is like destiny and those kinds of things, I really think we're all creating our reality as we go along. I don't think there's a final endpoint destination. I think we go where we want to go, but wherever we're creating, but we have to be in our truth to create that.
yeah. Heidi says using Heidi, where's everybody else in the chat that you're the only one talking today? Good Lord, we love it. We love it. You're asking such great questions and making wonderful observations. So using every one of your senses and actually living what you want to manifest.
And the senses are just one part of it because, the
Yeah.
other part of it is really how you're being and how you're showing up with the energy that you walk with and with how you're being in your life and your experiences. So the senses are more of a personal experience that we're having with life and how we experience life, but the how we're being with other people is really highly important. How we're
Yeah.
being when we're out in the world.
Yeah. That's so true. That's so true. Now, how important are the chakras, like aligning them? So we have our crown chakra, our third eye, our throat, right? And then
Mhm.
we have our heart chakra. No, heart's up
Heart.
here,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then solar plexus, and then what's next? Sacred.
The
What's the
sacral,
last?
sacral,
Yeah,
and then the
sacral.
root. Hmm.
So how important are these things? Like being a Reiki master yourself, like explain to us how we can use our chakras to help us be in touch with more of our intuitive nature.
Sure. And I'm not a Reiki master. I'm a Reiki level 2 practitioner, but I'm not a master.
Oh, okay. Well, that's brilliant. That's good enough.
um, chakras. So,
Yeah.
I mean, they're pivotal. We have more than those seven, first of all.
Mhm.
They're all over our body, they're outside of our body. Everything is energy. So, when you connect with those seven are kind of what are known as our main seven, you
Mhm.
are very um, intentionally connecting with energy overall and the energy of the different places that they represent, because each chakra represents a different place in our life. And
Mhm.
so, it's important to have the energy in that chakra be clear, because it then resonates with the energy of how we're expressing or experiencing that part of our life. So
Yes.
the solar plexus is known for, being, I think of it as like our intuition's brain, which is why people get,
Mm.
butterflies in the belly. Everyone can resonate with their
Yeah.
feeling, right? And that's because it's a very intelligent part of our body. And so when that part of our body is in tune, it helps us to connect with other energies that connect with that part of us. you know so the chakras are really, because everything is energy,
Mhm.
they're a vital part of life. you know
Yeah. Do you have a particular one that like you work with to increase your intuitive energy, or is it just like when you're meditating, do you focus on your like is there a particular chakra that you focus on?
Sometimes a certain one will call me. It's usually my third eye, but I don't
Mm.
usually focus on one more than another. I just pay attention to how I feel in my body. And like my third eye will literally start throbbing, or
Oh,
it'll get hot, or I'll just get it, I'll feel it. I'll feel it in a different way that I don't feel other places in my body. So I'll know to pay attention to that place because it wants my attention. That's how I understand them. But I don't generally focus on one more than another. I just try to make sure that all of me is aligned and in tune. And like I keep saying, the best way to do that is to be present and focus on how you're being, because that's how you come in alignment with yourself.
yeah. Do you still take classes, like Heidi just talked about that wonderful class that she took in Boulder?
Ah, yeah.
How how important do you think they are? Because
Mm.
I know, like, because of the advent of social media, people more and more people are waking up and more people are learning from other sage individuals and learning techniques and things like that.
Mhm.
How important do you think these courses are to take,
Mhm.
to help us wake up? Like, do they really work in your estimation?
I mean, I have mixed feelings about them because I have
Mhm.
clients who take course after course after course, and I've told them, don't take another course. Please don't take another course,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I know that all the power is in the individual, and it's really about everyone being comfortable with like looking at you and being honest with you and in your life and things that are happening and how you feel about them. Because of course, those are more temporary fixes that I kind of think, and it depends on the person. For somebody, maybe a course can be life changing, but my general stance is that everyone has what they need inside of them. And if you can have the courage and the trust and the faith to really be with yourself and look at yourself, and to use the information that you're getting outside of you to
Yes.
support that inward, look at yourself, then
Mm,
it's helpful. But it's I kind of think about it in the same way that people think, like how you have to go through a certain entity to get to God. Like you don't. Or to get to
yeah,
the creator or divine, to get to access divine energy. You don't have to go through anything or anyone. It all lives in you.
it
So that's why I
does.
have mixed feelings. I think it depends on the person,
Yeah.
but generally speaking, I think people can ask the questions that they want to know of themselves, like in their quiet time, and really see how they're guided to getting that answer for themselves,
Oh,
because
I love
that's the long term,
yeah.
permanent solution. The
Mhm.
class that you take, you may forget about that class and what you learned
Exactly.
a week after it's over, you know?
Exactly. And that's my concern about I see so many courses that, sound wonderful in theory, and then you take it's like I remember, back when I got my master's degree, it was so much to learn. There was so much tough learning and memorization, and I'm lucky I remember a third of it. Like it's when you see it, like you'll get a refreshed memory, but
Yes.
there's so much that we waste, and including, you know, things that we watch and listen to. Like for me, Alan Watts is like my inspiration. I love listening to Alan Watts.
I
I,
love
I
him
mean,
too.
I can listen to any video by him and have a whole lesson of like wows in there,
He's
you know?
amazing. So,
He really
yes.
is. He's like my guru, my mentor, and,
Aw,
whenever I'm feeling it, I just open a video by Alan Watts, and
I
I'm
love
like,
that.
yeah, he's just everything, I think. And God bless that we've been gifted with people like that. And of course, like
Absolutely.
yourself, like you're teaching us such essential lessons
Aw,
about our intuition and guiding us down a road, and the great thing about a book I love, and I always like books. Like
oh, I think you just muted yourself. Yeah. No, I can't hear you. I see your mute says it's on too. Oh, I still can't hear you. And I can see your microphone has a little line over it.
how about
Oh,
now?
there you go.
For some reason, StreamYard, like if I touch my mic, it thinks I want to mute it, and I
Oh, it's
don't.
super
But
sensitive.
yeah, it's super sensitive. But okay, it's all good. But I was saying, like the power of books, right? We forget how wonderful it is to actually have a book in our hands. Like,
Yes.
remember Barnes and Nobles used to be everywhere? And
Yes.
like on a Saturday afternoon, you'd go in there and just get 5 or 10 books that you
Yes.
adore and holding it. There's something magical about holding the book in your hand and
Yep.
underlining things and stuff like that.
Yes. And
Now
smelling
we're all,
it.
yes, that exactly. It has a smell, right?
Mhm.
Now we're inundated with PDFs and audiobooks, and so we've had to like relearn how to appreciate books again. At least I
Yes.
did. Like
Yes.
I'd had to learn how to read a book PDF, and okay, I can underline it in Adobe, which is cool. But for me, like I just love the book. Like I need
Yeah.
to have the book.
I agree.
So
And then you can also reread it. You see it sitting on your
yes.
table, you think about it more because it's in your presence versus in your inbox.
Yes, exactly. And it's so generational too, because like the younger generations now, they're so used to like the audiobook,
Mm,
the Kindle, the
mhm.
PDF. They're so used to it that, you give them a book and I don't know, I think it frustrates them to have like an actual book. It's crazy.
I mean, maybe, they just and I think generally people just want things and change to happen overnight and so quickly. And so it's like they want to read it and take it in and be done and go on to the next
Yeah,
thing. And that's challenging because that doesn't always allow people to really absorb whatever they just learned,
exactly.
And so, different forms are going to be helpful for different people. You know, we talked about the classes and stuff too. And even like I offer services for people that are, I guess they could be considered a class, but it all teaches people how to connect with themselves. All I'm doing in my everything I do is guiding people to themselves, you know?
Oh, nice. So let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah,
Um, what courses do you offer? And then we'll talk about your book after that, like where folks can get it and stuff. But
sure.
what do you offer people? Like, do you do it through Zoom? Like, how does that work for Ebony?
So right now, everything is through Zoom. So there are a couple of things. I still give people readings that I've been doing since 2012, and you know they used to be in person, but they've been only Zoom lately. I would take it in person, but by request only. You know, but I'm open to it for people who are in the same city. And I also offer intuitive healing mentorship, which is a group project that really supports folks in like going inward because I credit my intuition with my ability to heal myself. And it's just been intuitive healing is a real thing. You know, it's a real thing. And so I work with groups of people to teach them how to do that. And that's anonymous and it's via Zoom because we're talking about such personal things. So just like my name is here, the person's name won't necessarily be there, or it'll be like their social media name, not their actual name. So there's like privacy and autonomy since we're talking about such private things. And even though it's via Zoom, you know, it's off camera for people who choose that. And then I also have a intuition coaching program that right now it's just individual one-on-one with me, but I'm translating that. Oh, there's my website. I'm translating that into a digital format so that it can be more accessible to people because the one-on-one with me is much more expensive than the digital format will be. And the Sunday workshop that's on your screen, that happens the second and fourth Sunday, and that's free. I do it from
Oh,
12. Yeah, I do it from 12 to 1 Eastern time. And we talk about all kinds of things, and anybody can join. So,
oh, that sounds wonderful. I'm going to pop in there. I just
yeah,
signed up.
please.
Oh,
Yay, I love that.
definitely. So, oh, how cute you were. Oh, I love this.
My henna hand.
Yeah. Okay, so here's Speak of Barnes and Noble.
Yeah.
So your book is, can people see that? No, because it's a separate screen.
Oh, it pops
Um,
up in another screen. Yeah.
yeah. But anyway, all you got to do is click here and or is it on Amazon as well?
Yes.
Wonderful. So you can get the ebook or the paperback version,
And what I'm
which is
thinking about
great.
doing, which I haven't shared publicly, but I guess I can share it with your audience. Once
Sure.
the book comes out, I'm going to shift the Sunday workshop into a book club. So we can
Oh,
really talk about it and like go through it and talk about it.
do you want to hear something weird talking about intuitive?
Hmm.
Before, about an hour before we started our call, all of a sudden, I got this vision of it, and I never think about book clubs. I got this vision of a book club, and I thought, how nice. I would love to join a book club. Just came out of nowhere. And look at that. That had to be intuition right there, right?
Absolutely. That was
I
your
love that
claircognizant
idea.
checking in.
Yeah, I love that idea.
Yeah, I think.
So, your workshops are just now on a Sunday, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And you're gonna turn that maybe into a book club, is that right?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
So what you do readings as well? Is that like where are your readings on here?
So right there, you were just there where it says scroll down. Where you scroll down, it says where my hand is. So that's the reading page, where the hand
Oh,
is. Yeah, book a remote
oh,
Clairtangent
book a
reading.
remote. Oh, oh, I have to do that. I would love to book one with you. Oh, fun, fun stuff. Love it. So what
Yay.
do you see? Now you've got your memoir that you're working on. It's
Yes.
not complete yet. Is that
I don't know. The editor has it now. I get their notes at the end of the month. So I don't know. You know, they may say more here, say less here. Who knows, you know, but they're the professionals. I'm going to follow their advice for the
yeah.
most part. But yeah, I hope to have, I'm going to self-publish the memoir. I think,
Oh,
yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the route I'm going to go. So I think it'll be ready sometime next year. I really want the first book to come out and for me to be able to support people with that book as much as possible. But there's so much learning in the memoir too. It's just it's just my very different, because it's a
Yeah.
memoir. So
Yeah. 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 So there's a lot to learn from your life story in and of itself and like your journey, what you've been through and stuff like
absolutely.
that. Yeah.
The
I love
memoir
reading
is
memoirs.
the memoir is called Copy the Sky, and I copy the sky, and it's a memoir about harmonizing dark and light. So we were talking about dark and light earlier.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And the name
So
Copy the Sky came to me in a dream.
copy the sky, COPY.
Hmm.
Oh, that's so interesting. And
Hmm.
what kind of dream, like what was that about?
So I had a name for the book. Oh, what was the original name? It was long. I think it was One Mystic's Journey to Almost Forgetting or Neglecting Her Magic. It was something long like that. And I was
Yeah.
like, I don't like it. I didn't like it anymore. And
Yeah.
I was at my mom's house. I was visiting my mom, and I went to bed. I had set the intention to get a new name for my book. So before I went to bed, there's the puppy.
Oliver.
Is his
So
name
go ahead.
Oliver?
Yeah, Oliver.
Oh, he's
Thank
sweet.
you. He's my baby.
He's adorable.
Thank you. Poor
So
thing was
before I went
so
to bed that night, I set the intention I asked for that before I went to sleep. I want a name for my book. And at some
Oh, I
point,
love that.
yeah, at some point when I
What
was
does
coming,
copy the sky mean? Like what does that mean to you?
it means to harmonize dark and light,
Oh,
to allow
nice.
dark and light to coexist, yeah, we're like you were saying, dark and light are real. Understand dark as the unknown. I don't think it's evil and bad, so it's creative. So it's all about like allowing both aspects of your life to show up. And it's so funny too that my birth name is Ebony because ebony means dark wood or black wood,
Oh, yeah, I didn't think about that.
And I
That's so
always
interesting.
I always resonated with my name just because I'm from a very proud African American family. And, I thought
Sure.
my name came from that. But now I think my name really has more to say about my relationship with like dark, because I see it as
Yeah.
the unknown and as creative and loving.
Yeah, I like that correlation. Absolutely. Yeah, it makes sense. Copy the light. Copy the
Copy the
sky.
sky.
Copy
Hmm.
the sky.
Hmm.
Copy the sky. Yeah, it's true. Heidi said balance. Yeah, everything is
Balance.
now that's what I was talking about before with the light and the dark.
Yes.
It's so interesting. I mean, I talk to some people that sketch me out a little bit when it
Mm.
comes to darkness
I
because
understand.
yeah, it's a little scary, it could
Yep.
be a little scary, but then I always remember that balance between like Michelle, who's the manager of this network. I adore
Oh,
that woman. Heidi can vouch for that and so many others. She is truly one of the most gifted energy workers that I ever met. And she says the most profound things sometimes that, and she said you have to like walk in both realms really, in the dark and in the light. And
absolutely.
yeah, and know that balance. It's so true, so true.
But
So
first you have to know what the
yeah,
dark is,
right.
and it is not evil. It is not, it is the unknown. It is creative,
Yes.
because things that are going back to my understanding of everything is love, things that are evil and that are unloving are ultimately not true. Those are illusions, and people who are perpetuating that are living in illusion. So you have to know what dark is, which is most people go right to that other place with it. And then and it's a
Yeah.
powerful place too, which is another reason why it's
Yeah,
scary
it
for a
truly
lot
is.
of folks. And
Yeah,
then
I had a
once,
little trouble with the word illusion, trying to understand it because to me, like
okay.
an illusion is like almost like something that's not real, that's like imaginary, right? Like we're eluding it in our minds.
Hmm.
So if you take someone who's purely evil, like pick
Hmm.
anybody, right? Historically,
Hmm.
in the news, anybody. Um, were they living their life as an illusion that prompted them to act that way? Is that the approach?
That's how I think about it, and I understand why you have a problem with that word because it's true because it's actually happening in 3D reality, right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And that goes back to us being the co-creators of our lives that we are
Mm,
because we choose, what we want to experience. And and even that is so loaded, what I just said, right?
yeah.
That's what I believe, even with my experience with my trauma, like that's how I process life. And so um, it's an illusion in that while it is happening in 3D, it is not the truth of what life is. So
Oh,
think
I
about
see.
how crazy that is, that we're perpetuating things that aren't true to what the reality of life is.
I get it. I get it now why you chose that word, because it's not, you're not walking in truth when you're
Right.
living in darkness. Like, I get it now.
Well, when you're living in illusion, when you're
In
living in
illusion.
illusion.
Right.
Yes.
I totally get that
But
now.
it's, it's happening, it's impacting your 3D life.
Right.
But
Right.
just think about how wild and crazy that is, right? Like we're here on planet Earth, this little planet, this ball that's in this massive multiverse,
Yeah,
and
floating around. Like,
floating around in this
yeah.
multiverse. And you're choosing, or whomever is choosing to have an experience that is not the truth. When this is such a magnificent, glorious expression that we get to have as human beings, and you come into your body as a human being and you're experiencing life in this way that is illusory. Think about
Oh,
how crazy is that?
it is crazy, but it
That's
makes
how
so much
far
sense.
that's how far away we are from the truth. And most people are living their lives in illusion.
Oh,
It's
it's sad.
healing does so much. Listen, had I not healed, I would not have understood this.
Yeah.
This is all my that excavation I was talking about earlier.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
it takes you healing journey takes you places you wouldn't go otherwise, you know.
In your memoir, are you talking more about that? Your healing journey and like exactly how you walked through that?
Yes, yes.
Oh, wow.
It opens with me being 6 years old and going to church with my family, and then to like present day for the most part. But yeah, yeah.
Wow. When you get that published, you're gonna have to come back on. I hope it's sooner
Yay!
than you think,
I
but
hope so
I would
too.
love to have you back on. There's so much
Thank
we
you.
could talk about. You're just such a spark of light, and I
Oh,
loved your book. And I'm gonna actually I highlighted a bunch of stuff that I want to reread because this
okay.
again, so many good exercises in there and things like to put post-it notes around, to
Yes.
remind yourself, that kind of thing.
Oh, I love
So,
that.
folks, please show some love. Visit her website, Body Way Intuition. And Ebony, thank you so much for
Thank
being with
you
us
so
today.
much.
It was truly a joy, and I will be in touch. We'll do this again.
Okay, I would love to. Thank you so much. It was so nice meeting you, and thank you so much for all the kind words about the book. Like, it sounds like it's doing exactly what I intended. So I'm so
Yes,
grateful to hear that.
it is. And I want to book a reading with you, so you'll be hearing from me.
Love it.
I'll talk to you soon, dear. God bless.
Okay,
Thank you so
bye.
much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. And thank you so much to everyone in the chat. Heidi, blessings always to you. You're another spark of joy and light. Um, not only to me as a friend, but to the whole community. But thank you all so much. We had a wonderful, wonderful conversation with Benny. And of course, you've been listening to Ethereal Encounters Unveiled live on United Public Radio and UFO Paranormal Radio Network, which is 105.3 on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in New Orleans each week. Please be sure and support. We have so many wonderful guests and hosts on this network. Please support them, share, subscribe, like. It means the world to us when you do. And Ebony, thank you so much. This conversation was truly insightful. And again, loved your book. Absolutely recommend it. Your message is clear. You've already got the wisdom you need inside of us. Remember that your inner voice is always loving and always guiding us towards our best lives. So all you have to do is listen. And our goal this week is to start practicing one of these simple techniques that she shared. Start listening, start trusting, and begin unlocking intuition as your superpower. Find find your true self. It's in there. Heal it, love it, love your ego. Oh, we learned so much. We learned so much. And again, make sure that you visit bodywayintuition.com. I love supporting our guests that come on this network. So, and thank you everyone in the chat. Love you guys dearly. And I will see you all Thursday. And of course, stay tuned on social media. I will be posting our next guest and what we will be talking about. So, again, have a blessed weekend coming up. Thank you all. Bye bye.